Just feeling like the easy way ultimately becomes the hard way, because you end up paying a price, which is, you basically just make mediocre work. So, when you look at the story, it's just about a guy trying to get home because there's a burglar in his house. He's like accompanied by his annoying brother and a drunk chick and this bipolar guy who's prone to temper tantrums. And if you think about it like that, just the simplicity of the story. And this is my little trick. I will write a draft and then I'll put it away for a year or so, and then or even 2 years, or even 3 years, and then I'll come back to it and I'll read it and I go, who wrote this shit? Dude, the world needs stupid shit. We need the ridiculous, because who wants to go and see a film that reminds us about how terrible the world is? I think we need an escape. We need these things to remind ourselves that we are stupid creatures. I find that taking the risks you reap bigger rewards from that. And if I feel like I'm playing it safe, or I'm too complacent and a bit too comfortable doing something, then I feel like my work suffers. And it's happened a couple of times, just on like, sort of, not even in film, but like in general life, just feeling like the easy way ultimately becomes the hard way, because you end up paying a price, which is, you basically just make mediocre work. So I find like you kind of force yourself to walk into the fire a bit, and you're on your toes, and you're just trying to survive constantly. Then you come up with really great new ideas, and you come up with more inventive solutions to the problems. The formula is make them more human. The thing with Thor, and I think with a lot of superheroes at least, is they're weirdos. It's very hard to relate to them, because it's hard to figure out the kind of human traits that they possess, especially with Thor, because he's an alien, and he's like a rich kid who lives in a palace, and it's very hard to kind of understand where he's coming from. So with him, the key really was to tap into Chris's strengths, which are the fact that he's funny and charming, and he's a kind of friend who you would want to go on an adventure with. Yeah, but also I think that they're very relatable. They have to have human characters. They have to. Thor is, essentially he's a rich kid from outer space, who just wants to be loved. Wants to be like, we're all rich kids who want to be loved. The Hulk is, it's kind of like this bipolar disorder that he can't control, and I love the theme of Hulk. It's just an age-old idea of wrestling with these two beings within you. And I mean, there is really something. If we look at every character, they probably dress ridiculously, but there is something relatable. Is there similarities though? I mean, I'm kind of painting like it's two completely different worlds, like making more of an indie film. They are very similar. Like what? And the way that you get into these things, the way that I could kind of make myself feel like I had something to offer, and that I guess somehow that there was an in for me creatively, was to think of this thing like an independent film. So when you look at the story, it's just about a guy trying to get home because there's a burglar in his house, right. And he's trying to get home. Across the, just happens to be across the universe. He's trying to travel, but this is really like after hours, set in space. He's like accompanied by his annoying brother and a drunk chick and this bipolar guy who's prone to temper tantrums. And if you think about it like that, just the simplicity of the story, that's my in. That's the way that I can figure out how to make these characters more relatable to the audience and humanize them. So I think failure is a brilliant thing. It teaches you a lot of stuff, and you end up coming up with better ideas often when you fail at things. I think what's really great also is learning to embrace bad experiences, bad creative experiences, and watch bad movies, read bad books, and because all of that stuff sometimes it teaches you what not to do. And so like for me, one bad experience I had was I played a stripper on a TV show once.
I remember sitting around in the green room in my G-string thinking, why am I doing this? Just helping someone else to realize their dream. And so what I ended up doing was I started writing my own scripts and stuff in my G-string. And then a few months later I made a short film, and then that went on to go to the Oscars about a year later. But I lost, so obviously that was a complete waste of time. But, that was me at the Oscars, asleep.
When you go from having the first germ of an idea for something to writing your first draft, do you spend a lot of time sort of really digging into and thinking you really, really know your characters inside out before you start that first draft, and do you outline and do a treatment and know every scene, or do you just kind of crack on with your first draft and then rewrite?
Yeah, I do the lots of notes and beats and like try and figure out the story before typing, because I find that typing is really horrible, and it just hurts your body and your mind. Just sit in front of a blank screen and, oh, now what's next? I like to just have the whole plan out in front of me and know. And basically how I write is I'll start with the beginning and the end. I just want to really like visually, or like just something that I think is like, this would be a cool way to end a movie, and this would be a cool last image for an audience to see. This would be a cool first image, and this would be a cool way to open a film. And then I'll start, and then I'll put in some scenes throughout. I think this would be a great scene. And then eventually, when I've got enough of these scenes or sequences, then lazily just glue them all together with some sort of connecting scenes. But that's it, really. That's sort of that's my style. And when I know what it is, then I can write really fast. But if I'm just sitting there with, like, if you were to say, hey, write a story about, a soothsayer on a mission to find some herbs in a fantasy land, and then I just had to look at a blank page, I'd be there for a year without typing anything, unless I sat down and like wrote out and figured it all out before.
So my one question is, I also like writing scripts that aren't like the usual script that's very like off the beat, and also like has a bit of humor, not to the normal. So how do you, what advice would you give to pitch something like that to investors and try and get them on board with something that's not really of the norm?
Sadly, I've never, also I'm happy about it, but I've never had to really do pitching or try and like find finance that way. Like we're very lucky in New Zealand with the Film Commission. Like if you go to them and you have a project that they believe in, then that's sort of how we get our stuff funded. And so only outside of that, I've only worked with Marvel and recently Fox Searchlight on my World War II film. But traditionally, what I do, because I have a lot of friends who are writers, and they say things like, oh, I've got this great idea, it's about this and this and this. I say, oh, great, so you should write that. And they go, I'm going to wait till I get some funding. I thought you were a writer. And they go, yeah, no, but I'm going to wait until, because I'm going to put in my petition and get some money, and then I can start writing. But that's not how it works. If you want to write something, you're passionate about it, you just got to write it. You just got to write it. And so I've never, traditionally I just wrote my scripts until they were at a point where I thought that they were ready to shoot, and then I went for finance. I didn't go in and go, oh, I've got a one-page synopsis and I want money so that I can start, so my fingers will work. It's like, no, I would just do the work, write for a year, and then go in and say, this is what I've worked on, I think this film's good, and so that's how I work. I would do the work first and then take it to them. First and foremost, don't listen to people's advice, and I'd say really just listen to yourself. But it's I realised that if you look at any artist, it's less about following them, because they probably didn't follow someone else, or they probably, the great artist didn't really copy or try and replicate someone else's career. And so I think that's an incentive to really stick to your own guns and follow your own vision and do your own thing. I'd just say look at art. Art is the thing that really inspired me to try different things. And I only came to screenwriting and filmmaking in my late 20s, but before that if I would ever come to London, I'd spend most of my time at the galleries, at like the National and the Tate and stuff, and I just, yeah, I mean, I just love seeing art in general. It doesn't matter what it is, just having some sort of window into someone else's mind or someone else's creative process. I think it all helps to inspire you and to get you motivated to do your own thing. But that's the way I prefer to write. And this is my little trick that none of you will want to do. I will write a draft and then I'll put it away for a year or so, and then or even 2 years, or even 3 years, and then I'll come back to it and I'll read it and I go, who wrote this shit? And then I will read it like maybe 2 or 3 times, and then I will throw that away and then rewrite it from page 1 based on the memory of what I read. And then my 120-page script will suddenly be 80 pages, and it'll just be the bare bones and just like the important parts, or the things that I can remember from reading the script. And so I think that's like quite a good filter system. And then when you have like this very sort of bare bones short version of your story, then you can add back in some tonal stuff and some more jokes and shit and stuff like that. But yeah, so that takes way longer than anyone wants to do.
How many of those scripts do you have in the drawer? Like, how many do you have?
Well, it's just I just put them in a
chest,
a little drive, and then put that somewhere. Well, I don't want to throw it away. But I make sure I don't look at it again.
Yeah.
Hi, Taika.
Hi.
So you do mostly comedy. That's like what you're drawn to. That's what your
dare you?
Voice is. I'm so sorry. Pigeonholes you. But my question is, did you always know that was kind of what you wanted to write? And do you have any advice for people who want to write? Like right now, I'm writing something that's like very dramatic and tragic, but I feel like Stop.
Just
okay,
stop.
Just don't do it, eh?
We don't need any more depressing films. No, when I wrote Boy, the first version of Boy was super depressing and super sad, and Hunt for the Wilderpeople, the first version, was like just sad. I was just like, oh, I'm going to be like Lucas Moodyson, I'm just going to make it really depressing. I realized I don't know how to do that. I'm not good at that. And so I decided to just look at what I was good at, which is, I'm a reprobate, and I'm like don't like rules, and I don't like depressing films. Like I decided, I made a choice. I said to myself, "Do you really like depressing films?" And I said back to myself in a husky voice, "No." No. And and Jemaine said a really important thing to me when we were shooting What We Do in the Shadows. There was a point where we were like, we're turning like a 5-minute idea into a feature film. This is what we're doing. And he goes, dude, the world needs stupid shit. We need the ridiculous, because, who wants to go and see a film that reminds us about how terrible the world is? We just like go on Twitter and let's just look at the news and save ourselves 2 hours. So I think we need an escape. We need these things to remind ourselves that we are stupid creatures. We are clumsy. We're the clumsiest of all animals. Nowhere in the animal kingdom will you see an animal that will like smash their head like 4 times in a row on on something, or trip over themselves. We are dumb as shit. So we should embrace that. And so yes, there's room for beautiful human films, maybe the dramatic, but I think that you can also it's like a little you subvert that, it's just like the payload is like the themes and the stuff that means something. But if the plane is like dressed like a clown and everyone's going, oh cool plane, and then you drop that payload, that's the way I think that makes a film important. Because every day, you think people walk around being depressed all day long, and I mean some do, yes, but no one walks around like, you know, in a dancer in the dark kind of like situation, you know, it's like, or like, you know, like breaking the waves, like, oh, this is sad, 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 sad. It's light and dark all day long, you know, so I think that's why I like my films, is because it's like light and dark, and there's a mix, and you've got to find that balance, but that's why I think the way I try and do things is more human, more in touch with like how humans are every day. If you come from a shit background and poor community, you laugh all day long, you know. I developed my style of writing down all the beats and all of the different parts of the story before actually typing quite early on, because I realised that I didn't really know. I didn't know how to format scripts back when I started off, and when I first started screenwriting, it was like on Microsoft Word, and so I'd seen scripts from when I was an actor, but I didn't like, and so I'd use the spacebar to go all the way into the middle of the page. I didn't know about tab. So I was using the spacebar to get all the way there, and then type the character's name, and then like press enter the spacebar all the way there to start doing the dialogue. So they're really wonky, and so it took me a long time doing that, because I mean, I didn't know how to do that, but also I didn't really know what I was writing. Like I knew kind of what the characters were doing, but I got stuck on blank pages all the time, so I started just doing things by hand and writing all my dialogue by hand first. And so that's what, with all my short films, I'd write everything by hand, and then when I knew the structure and I knew when it was good, then I would start typing it out. I think it all comes down to putting the power back in the hands of the people who own those stories. And so, you know, I think that the only authentic way you can tell a story from a particular place is to get someone from that place, you know, someone who knows that content and knows the culture to tell it. Yeah, I fully support the idea of getting Indigenous people to tell their stories.
Do you think I could borrow some money? I'm just a bit broke at the moment. It's not fair, man. These kids get more than we ever got. Oh, I know it's not a competition. Never said it was. Hey, you grow up. I will spend more time with those boys.
We're all the same, and we all have the same problems, and we all need to pay rent, and we all need to get a job and feed our kids, and so, which is why, you know, films like Smoke Signals was, you know, such a great film when it came out, because it was like, oh, they're just normal people.
Said foul. It's foul. Bullshit. Wasn't no one near you. If I say it's a foul, it's a foul.
Those are the films that I like, and so Boy really presented, I think, our culture as everyone else. It was a very human story, but told in a very unique place. The location was something that not many people had seen before. So some of the responses were that, you know, it was like it didn't spend enough time dwelling in like the spirituality of Māori, and like how, you know, how we, you know, how connected to the ghost world we are, or anything, which you know, a lot of us aren't. And so yeah, I just tried to tell like a normal story about normal people who happen to be brown.
Who are you?
Boy.
What boy?
Jemaine.
Jemaine.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm your dad.
Oh. Hey, Dad.
Hey.
Welcome back. Good to see you.